Good evening and welcome back to another edition of Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. My name is Michael Wein, your host, and I'm joined, as always, by my fantastic co-host and fellow Texas Longhorn fanatic, Mr. Emmy Nixon from Austin, Texas, the home of the Texas Longhorns. Welcome back to the show, and tonight we will be discussing a mock draft by Daniel Jeremiah, where he has 3 Longhorns going in the first round. We will react to that. We will also be discussing how many Longhorns we think at this point pre-combine will be going in the first round, and on days 1 and 2 in total. We will be talking some Texas baseball and some coaching staff changes. So if you like the show and you like this supplemental content and you want more of it, make sure you like and subscribe. We greatly appreciate it. And hopefully you guys are as plugged in and are as passionate, if you are a Longhorn fan, into deep in the heart of Longhorn sports as we are. So Emmy, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good, man. This morning I woke up and looked to my right and saw my girlfriend. She was sleeping. I went, "Babe, wake up! Daniel Jeremiah just dropped another mock draft. All right, we need to see this." No, I didn't actually do that, but it's a great time of year. It's draft season. It's draft season, baby. Let's go.
You should do that between now and our next episode of Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. And then on the first segment of our next episode, you can explain to us what her reaction was.
Yeah, if
I'd
if
be
I come
interested
back with a
to.
bandage on my nose, you'll know why.
All right, well, that's that. Let's go ahead and jump right into this mock draft. We're going to be reacting to the 3 Longhorns that Daniel Jeremiah himself, has going in the first round, and what other Longhorns might be candidates to go in the first round later on. But his first Longhorn off the board is to the Chicago Bears at pick number 10 in Kelvin Banks. And his little explanation for this pick is the Bears need to devote their offseason to upgrading the group playing in front of Caleb Williams. Banks has the skill set to play tackle or guard. And we talked a little bit about this on our football episode that will also be coming out in the next couple of days. But Emmy, your thoughts on Kelvin Banks and his fit with the Chicago Bears?
Yeah, if you want to hear us go into deep depth on this particular fit, go and watch that episode. But I'll keep it brief here. I mean, it's just as simple as you gotta pair Caleb Williams with offensive talent that can grow and develop with him for the long haul. You look at all different players throughout the league, all the young quarterbacks throughout the league. It always works out great when you have young quarterback paired with a group of young wide receivers and a couple of key, young pieces on the offensive line. That's when you're set up for success for the long term as an offense.
Yeah, I think it fits perfectly. I think this is one of the prime destinations for Kelvin Banks. There are some growing concerns amongst pundits in the industry about his arm length and his frame to play tackle in the NFL. He did have a couple, for Kelvin Banks standards, being the Outland Trophy winner for the best lineman in college football this past year. He did have a couple games where he struggled, especially the first Georgia game this year, where
Oh
you
yeah.
could see some balance issues in pass protection. But he was going up against the best of the best. 2 top 10 picks potentially in this year's draft. And for the most part, when Kelvin Banks went up against the best of the best in college football over his 3-year career at Texas, he won most of those battles. I mean, you think about Alabama, his first year against Will Anderson, right? I mean, all the elite pass rushers that he
Yeah.
faced this past year in the SEC. The guy at Texas Tech last year, what was his name? Uh,
Uh, Tyree.
Tyree Wilson. Tyree
Yeah.
Wilson. I mean, he's gone up against his fair share of NFL talent, and he's just a rock solid person, but also a football player, both in the run blocking standpoint and from a pass protection standpoint. And the value you get in him is he has the adaptability and skill set to play guard. If you're worried about starting him out at tackle for a variety of different reasons. And I get some of the concerns on Kelvin Banks, absolutely, but for those draft pundits that maybe just watched a couple games where he struggled, I would encourage you to like get the full scope because for the most part during his career, he was absolutely fantastic. And that's why he's being considered to go top 10 in the draft. I think it fits well with the Bears. One of the best linemen in the draft at number 10, strengthen your offensive line. The foundation you set up front in front of Caleb Williams is going to, in large part, going to determine the success you have offensively in this newly structured offense under Ben Johnson. And I think Ben Johnson will be smart enough to realize that. Whereas I think defensive coaches like Matt Eberflus, who they had the past couple of years, just in general, might be a little bit slower to have that sense of urgency on the offensive side of the football. The quarterback position, the offensive line. You have to have those components to be a Super Bowl contender in today's NFL. So I like that pick. Up next, we've got at number 17, our guy Jahdae Barron, who was a Thorpe Award winner this past year to the Cincinnati Bengals. His explanation for this pick is, I'm sure the Bengals would consider a defensive tackle here, but Barron is too good to pass up. Also, there will still be talented defensive tackles available when Cincinnati is on the clock in round 2. Your thoughts on Jahdae Barron in the Bengals at 17?
Yeah, to DJ's point there, this is a very talented and deep defensive tackle class. And at defensive back or at corner, wherever you want to put Jahdae Barron, you're not going to do much better, especially when you're getting into the latter half of the first round. So they needed defensive help, no question about it. I think if you were to adjust this pick, it would probably be to an edge rusher, depending on what you think of their first round pick from 2 years ago. I think it was Brian Brzee. I think it was.
Yep.
Depending on what you think of him, you might go with the edge here, but this is a really good fit. Have we gotten word on who their new defensive coordinator is yet?
Well, I'd have to look it up.
Here, I'll go ahead and look it up now.
For me, though, the value you're getting in Jahdae Barron in the middle of the first round is fantastic because of his versatility. He was a guy that started out primarily as a star in the Texas-based defense, the 4-2-5 defense that Pete Kwiatkowski runs, the nickel defense. These nickel defenses in the NFL and in college are becoming more the base defense for a lot of these teams and programs rather than just being sub packages. And that's where Jahdae Barron's value comes into play. He's a very good football player at that position. Does a lot of good things supporting in the run game. He's a willing tackler. But he showed his ability to be a very good, if not lockdown outside corner against some of the best talents in the game this past year. The job that he did against Jeremiah Smith in the Ohio State game. I mean, are you kidding me? It wasn't all him, but he was just fantastic the entire year. The consistency, his leadership, I think, will also be valuable in an NFL locker room. He's primed to wherever he goes be a fit because of his versatility. can play the nickel, or he can play outside corner. He could probably play a little safety too, honestly, if you needed him to. I don't know if that would be the ideal thing to do, but with as smart as Jahdae Barron is and as skilled as he is, I like the pick. I don't think you can go wrong with Jahdae Barron. Right around the 15 to 20 range is where I really like Jahdae Barron going. I'm not so sure yet sold on him going in the top 10, but could happen. But I like it for the Bengals here, for sure.
For sure. Yeah. An experienced guy that's a plug and play starter for a team that wants to contend. So
Yeah.
can't go wrong there. Their defensive coordinator, by the way, is Al Golden.
That's
picked
right.
him up from Notre Dame. So
That's right.
Brought him back. He was their linebackers coach in 2020, I think it was. And then they brought him back now.
Okay, so the last Longhorn going in Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft 2.0, which came out today or yesterday. Matthew Golden to the Buffalo Bills at 30. His little explanation for it is the Bills have needs on defense, but this is strictly a value play. Golden would be a perfect fit with Josh Allen. And to be honest with you, I 1000% agree with Daniel Jeremiah here. I think Matthew Golden would be an excellent fit in the Buffalo Bills offense. You have Khalil Shakir, who's like an ideal slot guy. You could slide him in to play the slot. Very productive player this past year. One of the best players, period, on their offense. And you have Keon Coleman, who you can play at the X receiver. I think Matthew Golden, while he has versatility to play the slot, could pair really well with Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir, at that Z wide receiver position. I kind of compare him to, he's gotten comparisons to Santonio Holmes. I've seen some comparisons to Jordan Addison. I also have seen even comparisons to Odell Beckham with just his catch radius, his ability to track the ball in the air, make some of the harder catches around the sidelines. And he's a polished route runner, and he has the ability to play special teams as well. I think he's a versatile receiver, very polished receiver, big year at Texas, big time production. And I think you could fit him in really well in this offense. Next to Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman. I think he fits fairly well along with Josh Allen. And I think, honestly, you plug him in this offense, and he'd be a candidate to maybe even be their leading receiver as a rookie. I just view him that highly. I think this is around the spot where you could see him go. If he's going to go in the first round, I believe it's going to be in the latter half, like the late first round, maybe early second round. I think that's his range. But I love this fit with the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I mean, to your point on catch radius, I think when the ball is in the air, he's always, in his head quoting LeBron. Like, hey, that's my ball. That's my ball. Hey. You know that
Yeah.
meme? Yeah.
Yep.
Anyways, sorry for the cringe. Anyways, Golden, I think, depending on where you sit in the whole Matthew Golden versus Emeka Egbuka debate, you could see him probably go at the, even at pick 20 to Denver, possibly. I've seen him go as high as that. But if he were to land in Buffalo, I'll tell you this right now. I think I would probably try to draft him in fantasy. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah, and some would argue that Buffalo needs to make up for trading that pick to Kansas City last year, which resulted in Kansas City getting Xavier Worthy. I don't think a lot of Buffalo fans like that. A lot of NFL fans in general. Even though Keon Coleman is perfectly good, NFL wide receiver that I think has a ton of potential. But you need another guy to complement him, and I would love to see Golden go, to any of these teams. 20 to 32 I think you could see him go to any wide receiver needy team because of his skill set to play slot or, the Z wide receiver position. My next question to you, kind of related to reacting to this mock draft, is if there's going to be another Longhorn to go in the first round, outside of the ones that we talked about, Matthew Golden, Kelvin Banks, and Jahdae Barron, who is that Longhorn, do you believe? Is it Cam Williams? Is it Isaiah Bond? Because those are, to me, the two candidates that would come to mind immediately.
I think it would probably be somebody taking a chance on Bond, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't personally right now. I don't see Cam Williams going in the first round.
I don't
with
either.
the amount of tackle talent that we've seen. I mean, I think he's probably a lock to go. Early, mid, second round, but
Yeah.
you can't just go based off traits. You got to have consistency as a player as well, and he just didn't have that in his one season playing.
Yeah. I would agree with you. From stuff I'm hearing inside on the inside circles, there's not really a lot of discussion around the league about Cam Williams going in the first round, whereas I think during the season there was a lot of that.
Yeah.
But some of the inconsistency was there. Did not have a great game against Ohio State in the national semifinal. I think that, I don't want to say soured people on Cam Williams, but definitely quieted a lot of the hype around him that existed previously. So while he's very talented and he's just an absolute mammoth of a human being, if I had to bet on another Longhorn to go in the back half of the first round, it's definitely Isaiah Bond. I think if Isaiah Bond goes to the combine next week and runs sub 4.35, I think you could see him sneak into the first round. Because I just don't know that there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to pass on that speed, like we saw last year with Xavier Worthy, or like we've seen in the past with some of these elite speedster wide receivers. I just think you could see a scenario where he crushes at the combine, he runs sub 4.35, his 40-yard dash time is absolutely off the charts, and a team like Buffalo or one of these teams at the back end of the first round takes a chance on that. Just a young, speedy, super. He's got all the tools. He was just, the back half of his season at Texas this past year was filled with nagging injuries and some struggles, catching the football at times. But I think the speed and the talent itself is hard to pass up on, especially if he goes and runs sub 4.35 or something in the 4.2s. I mean, that's really going to be interesting to see. That's something we'll talk about more, though, next week when the combine is actually taking place. But yeah, I think he's probably the guy because I don't foresee Cam Williams. I don't think any of these others. I don't see either of the defensive tackles. I don't see Gunnar Helm. I don't know if there's another Longhorn in this class. I think these are the three that you're probably going to see go in the first round. So that leads us to the second part of the show, which is my next question. I'm going to stop sharing my screen as we move on here. Daniel Jeremiah had 3 Longhorns selected in the first round. My next question to you is over under 2.5 Texas Longhorns going in the first round. What's your call?
I'm going to take the over. I feel pretty good about it being 2, for sure. The third one is going to be the tricky one. Matthew Golden, I think, in that second half of the year, he showed a lot. And it's just going to be whether teams can, take that at face value or if they're going to question the sample size of it, because the talent is there. I think he's going to run well at the combine. I think he's going to test well at the combine. I think whether he goes in the first round or not, he's going to be in the top 40 picks. I would feel pretty shocked if he has a A.D. Mitchell type of fall.
Yeah, I would take the over. I think there's going to be 3 Longhorns. I think it's going to be Kelvin Banks, absolutely 100%. I think Jahdae Barron is going in the first round. And I think it's going to be one of the 2 receivers. Probably Matthew Golden more so than Isaiah Bond, like we talked about. But one of the 2 receivers I think will find his way in the back half of the first round. My next question for you, though, is if we extend it out to day 2, so in rounds 1 through 3, I created this line myself, and maybe it needs adjusting. Over, under 6.5 Longhorns on days 1 and 2 of the draft.
Oh, 6.5. Okay. So that would be.
So before you give your thoughts, my thought process on setting this line.
Okay.
I think there's going to be at least minimum 5. Cam Williams, Isaiah Bond. I think both those guys are early day 2, round 2 guys. I think the 3 guys that we discussed, Matthew Golden, Kelvin Banks, and Jahdae Barron, are all round 1, early day 2 at the very, very least. I think because of the weakness of this quarterback class, Quinn Ewers will probably find his way into like round 3, maybe late round 2. It's kind of where I see him right now. Some team, I think, once they see him perform at the combine and in his pro day, probably draft him. But he could be that kind of the swing guy here, because I do think also Gunnar Helm is going to be a day 2 pick. I think he's a top 5-ish tight end in this class. I think he'll go on day 2, maybe in round 3. But I think he's going on day 2. So if it's the 2 receivers, the 2 tackles, Jahdae Barron, Quinn Ewers, Gunnar Helm, that's 7. And that's kind of where the.
And that's not even including Alfred Collins.
That's not including Alfred Collins. That's not including Vernon Broughton. That's not including any of the other Longhorn prospects. I thought about taking the line up to 7.5. But then I was like, well, that's a lot.
I think you're right. I think Quinn is the swing factor. For me personally, it's gonna take a development plan. It's gonna take real foresight for a team to really just be like, hey, let's just take a chance on this guy. And I hate to say it, but I don't think when judged by NFL GMs, he's gonna fare that well. Even though he had a lot of really great moments, and even the NFL GMs, I think, would tell you the best throws from Quinn Ewers are probably the best throws of this entire draft class, straight up. But the consistency factor of it, the accuracy, the pocket presence, pocket feel, those are the things that I think really are going to make him drop.
And you didn't even mention the injury concerns.
Yep. Bingo.
Right? And that is, it's put more in the spotlight with the NFL season. 17 games plus playoffs. It's going to take a plan. You're absolutely correct. He's going to have to go to a team with a quarterback locked into place, a starter locked into place, where he can sit for a couple years before he's even considered to be a starter. I think I've seen lots of grades on Quinn Ewers that are round 3 grades, which is understandable. If this was where you where you go based on everything, he's probably a round 4 guy. Career backup is, I think, where most draft pundits are projecting him to go. I just think with the combine and the pro day, seeing him throw on air, of course, it is on air. There could be a team or two that could take him in round 3, and I wouldn't be too mad at it, especially if he's not going to be your starter right away. I wouldn't be mad at it at all. But I think he is the swing factor. But even without Quinn, like will be my last point, I can make the argument for Matthew Golden, Kelvin Banks, and Jahdae Barron on day 1, round 1. And then I can make the argument for Isaiah Bond, Cam Williams, Gunnar Helm, Alfred Collins, and shoot, who am I forgetting?
Gunnar Helm. Wait, did you say Gunnar Helm? Gunnar Helm?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of others that I could throw at you that could go in round 2 and 3 that you wouldn't even need Quinn Ewers to hit the over on the 6.5. So I think they're going to be, my prediction as of right now, February 19th, it could change by the time we get to April, is 7 Longhorns go days 1 and 2. That's an insane amount, but it just speaks to the amount of talent at Texas the past couple of years.
Yeah, no question.
All right. Anything else Longhorn draft related before we move on?
No, I think that covers it.
Do you want to hit the coaching hires first, or do you want to go to Texas baseball?
Let's go to Texas baseball and then call it for the night. It's getting pretty late.
Okay. I like that plan. Okay, well, were you able to catch or see any of the results from this past weekend? Opening weekend of college baseball, the Longhorns go down to Arlington in the Shriners Children's College Classic. They play 3 games at Global Life Field, a place that's been a house of horrors to the Longhorns, quite frankly. Past half decade, they had lost, coming into this weekend, 8 straight games at Global Life. And it ended up being 9 straight games, 9 straight losses at Global Life after Friday, where the Longhorns controlled most of that game, but ended up losing to Louisville, a solid ACC squad in extra innings. But they bounced back big time, man. And they got the first 2 wins of the Jim Schlossnagle era. The offense really exploded. They beat Ole Miss. They run ruled Ole Miss in 7 innings. If you're up 10 runs or more after 7 innings in college baseball, it's called a run rule. Texas beat Ole Miss 10-0. A great performance by Luke Harrison in that game. And then they bounced back on Sunday once again, and they won the entire tournament based on point differential. No team went 3-0, but there were a couple teams that went 2-1, and amongst the teams that went 2-1, Texas had the biggest run differential. They beat Ole Miss by 10, and they beat a ranked Oklahoma State team, a team that won the Big 12 a year ago, 14-8. So overall, a rousing success for the baseball program. First weekend of the Jim Schlossnagle era. Saw a lot of bright spots that give me faith in this team being a top 15 squad this year and a top half of the SEC squad this year. Do you have any thoughts or takeaways or questions from the first weekend of college baseball for the Longhorns?
Number 1, how was the pitching staff, in your opinion? I saw, obviously, it was a very good performance in that first game against Louisville, giving up, I think, 3 runs total over extra innings. So that's a very good defensive effort. But overall, over the entire course of the weekend, what was your thoughts on the pitching?
Pitching was impressive, particularly the starting pitching. There are going to be some questions throughout non-conference going into conference play about the bullpen, specifically who's going to end up being the closer, and they're just going to need to work out some of the roles in the bullpen. Who's going to be the setup guy? Who's going to be the closer? What guy, like, who's in the circle of trust? What guys do we really feel comfortable in coming in, throwing strikes, putting out fires when guys are on base? But I will say, Drew Rarick, a really talented freshman, looked good in spots in the bullpen. Aiden Moffitt, a transfer from LSU, throws in the high 90s, velocity, fastball, really good fastball. He looks good in spots. Will Mercer, who was a transfer on from Notre Dame, didn't look particularly good, but he's a guy that I think could be used down the road in like setup spots. Really talented arm, missed all last year from injury, so he's still coming back from injury, trying to get right. And then Andre Duplantier looked good as a closer in the two wins. The win on Saturday and the win on Sunday in particular. What I was really looking for from the pitching staff, I wanted to see them be aggressive. I wanted to see the starters throw strikes, and get outs. And they did a really good job of that, especially the first two starters. A performances from Jared Spencer and Luke Harrison. I want to talk about Luke Harrison in particular because he's a guy that's been in the program since 2021. His freshman year, he comes in, has a really solid campaign. Looks really promising. Looks like he was going to jump into the rotation his sophomore year. Then he has Tommy John. He misses his entire sophomore season with Tommy John. And then last year, only got to pitch 10 innings and was terrible in those 10 innings. Had one of the worst ERAs in college baseball in the innings that he pitched. But wild comeback story. He's going to be the Saturday starter. Looked fantastic against an Ole Miss offense that the very next day, like, they run ruled Clemson, who's like the top 3 program in the ACC. I mean, it's just very encouraging on the pitching side of things, particularly Jared Spencer and Luke Harrison. Very impressive performances against very capable offenses. The one thing, though, for this Texas baseball pitching staff, throwing strikes and getting outs. The biggest problem for the pitching staff last year was not only a lack of high-end talent, like velocity and stuff, but also walks. Walks upon walks upon walks were a big issue for the pitching staff last year. They look a lot better. The Max Weiner effect is already taking effect, man. It's very exciting. If they can just figure out their Sunday starter and figure out a couple roles in their bullpen, with this offense, this Texas baseball team could be an Omaha contender year one under Jim Schlossnagle. I don't want to go that far right now, outright, because it's only 1 week into baseball. And we're not even to 10 full weekends of going up against SEC opponents like Texas A&M and Florida and Georgia and all these other elite college baseball programs. But based on what we saw this weekend in a small sample size, if we can just start to build on that with Max Weiner as the pitching coach, watch out, man. With this offense, if this pitching staff is top 20 in college baseball, they're an Omaha team.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, this offense looks. I mean, we said it in our preview stuff. There's not a lot of holes, man. There's not, and there's a lot of power too. Just I don't know what I would really compare it to, in the MLB. Maybe like a Bronx Bombers type of thing, with what the Yankees had last year. But, whew, I mean, it's looking really good. It really is, and it's good to see.
I want to run through a couple superlatives, season superlatives before we get out of here tonight, as it is getting late. It's 11:15 p.m. Central Time. Um, really quick though. Based on what I saw this past weekend and what I thought going into the season, breakout position player of the year for me for Texas is going to be Will Gasparino. He was a freshman last year. He he showed some really good things. Really solid first year. Got the experience that I think he needed. He's primed for a massive step forward though this year. Um, the one knock on Will Gasparino, the center fielder, who's put on, by the way, 20 pounds of muscle. He looks fantastic. Has really
No
bulked
homo.
up, gained more power. He just looks totally different than he did last year. Um, a strikeout rate of 32% during his freshman campaign. Not good. Not good in college baseball. You're striking out a third of the time you go to the plate. Not great. He needs to cut down on his strikeouts. I think this coaching staff is going to help him do that. If he can drop his strikeout rate below like 25%, he's going to have a massive year. Just shorten up that swing. The power is going to come with it, as he's got a great swing. He's going to hit for power. I think he's going to be a guy that hits 300 with like 25 homers this year. He already hit 2 this weekend, like in that big ass pitching ballpark at Global Life Field. He's got power to all fields, I guess, center field, right field, left field. Will Gasparino is going to be my breakout player. And then my breakout pitcher of the year is going to be, it's kind of a cop out answer. And I could make an argument for a couple bullpen arms, but Jared Spencer, the Friday starter, is going to be my breakout player just based on what I saw this weekend. Really all I needed to see. Mid 90s fastball, has the ability to run it up to like 97, 98. Got good cut on his fastball. He's just the long hair, the mustache, it all kind of works together. When you get a chance to watch, this past weekend was on Flow Sports or something, so not a lot of people probably got a chance to see the games. But when you watch Jared Spencer make his Friday night starts this year at the Dish, if you go to a couple games or if you watch on TV, he's really impressive. He's got the kind of stuff that Texas lacked last year, um, in their starting rotation. Outside of goodness, why am I blanking on his name? Outside
LeBaron
of
Johnson.
Leber and Johnson, yes. Outside of him, there wasn't a whole lot of elite stuff on the pitching staff last year, but they got it in Jared Spencer. I think he's going to have a great season. Could be an all SEC candidate come the end of the season. I think he's really that good. Uh, Team MVP, it's between two guys, really. It's either Jalen Flores or it's Max Bellew. Max Bellew is really how you say his name. I went with Max Bellew. He's the Big 12 Player of the Year last year. Already hit a couple home runs this past weekend. Kind of coming off the flu, so he's been sick the past couple weeks. But when his confidence is right, I mean, he has the ability to not just be like a game changer, but one of the best hitters in the entire nation. Can hit to all fields, has the power. Um, I think he's going to have a fantastic season. It's between him or Jalen Flores. I think both guys have the ability to hit 25 or more homers this season, which is fan-fucking-tastic for this offense. And I think Max Bellew, first-round pick potentially in June at the MLB draft. He's that good. And he's really improved defensively as well. And then lastly, let's see, breakout pitcher. I don't know, any other superlatives you want to run through? Oh, freshman of the year. That's the one I was forgetting. That's going to be easy, especially based on this past weekend. It's going to be Adrian Rodriguez. Texas baseball has their own A-Rod this year. Yes, that's right, folks. Adrian Rodriguez, or A-Rod, is going to be my freshman of the year. There are some intriguing candidates on the pitching staff, but Adrian Rodriguez was kind of a late addition to this team out of Flower Mound High School. Joins this team. I believe he comes over from A&M. He was committed to A&M, and Texas got him to flip. Really talented. Had some struggles at third base. Regular for a freshman. Making his first start at this level. But offensively, he just looks really. He's got a really solid approach at the plate. He's got a really solid hit tool. He looks solid at third base, although he had a couple errors this weekend. He's got a strong arm. He's going to be a star. Like, in that game against Louisville on Friday night, once Louisville made their comeback and tied it in the ninth inning, even though Texas ended up losing that game when Louisville scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 10th to walk it off, unfortunately, it was Adrian Rodriguez who hit the home run in the top of the 10th inning to put Texas back in the lead. Like, he's just got something about him. I think he's going to be one of the best freshmen in the SEC this year. So Adrian Rodriguez, or A-Rod, that's what Texas fans are calling him, whether it's fair or not. Any other comments or things that you're looking for Texas
Well,
baseball
on
when
the
you pick
topic
one?
of nicknames, what do you
Okay.
think? Okay, Will Gasparino. What do you think of Will Gas Bambino?
That's not bad. I call him Gaspo. I don't know if that's
Okay,
I
that
don't know
one's
if
good
that.
too.
Yeah, Will Gas Bambino though. That's pretty good. Definitely looks like a Bambino. If you see him at the plate this year, he's put on some good muscle. I don't know. The nickname game could take us all night. Like, we
Yeah,
could
yeah.
do that all day.
Transfer of the year. Did you get that one yet?
Transfer of the year from a hitting standpoint or from a pitching standpoint?
Uh, Both. Why not?
Well, I think transfer of the year from a pitching standpoint probably has to be Jared Spencer. From a hitting standpoint, though, that's difficult. It could be Easton Winfield. It could be Ethan Mendoza. I'll go Ethan Mendoza. He looked really good at second base. Comes over from Arizona State. He puts the ball in play a lot. He batted .315 with an OPS over 800 last year. It could be him or Easton Winfield. You're splitting hairs there, but Mendoza just looks really good at the plate. He's made some tweaks to his approach. He's getting more lift on the baseball, so he's going to hit more home runs this year. I think you're going to see an increase in power. He was a great portal pickup, and it's really the defense that needed to be filled at second base with the departure of D. Kennedy and Jack O'Dowd from last year's team, and he's probably an upgrade there. So it's going to be one of those two guys. But I think Ethan Mendoza, with some of the platoons they might do in the outfield, they don't have as much depth at second base, so I think Mendoza might just get more at bats. So that's what I'll go with.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really encouraged by the first weekend overall. Of course, you never want to overreact to anything this early on in a college baseball season. Injuries can happen. Things change week to week. Baseball is a very
Fickle sport.
Fickle sport. Yep. But in comparison to past years' opening weekends, this was a rousing success. And you can make an argument it should have been 3-0, but can't always, have your cake and eat it too. So
I like that.
is that the
That's a
saying?
good one.
Is
That's a
that the
good
saying
one.
that they? I forget what exactly the saying is,
I mean,
but
it makes sense. I mean, it sounds
yeah,
right. I don't know.
yeah, you can't have everything. It's
Yeah.
basically the point. All right, well, that's gonna do it for this week's episode of Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. We'll have these, if not every week, every couple of weeks, with more Texas baseball talk and Texas football talk, especially once we get closer to spring football. Emmy, you might not realize it, and lots of these programs actually might not have a spring game. I,
Yeah.
I, I still don't understand the reason for that, but that's a conversation for another day. We're still going to get spring practices, though, and like insider reports from practices throughout the spring. So once that starts in like March, we're not that far away, to be honest with you. We'll definitely be having these weekly episodes of Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. Any parting shots before we get out of here?
My parting shot is just that. Hmm. OU still sucks.
Yes. OU, man, OU, they fucking suck. Think about this. During the SEC, Texas is in the SEC. They wanted to come with Texas to the SEC. They think they're better than Texas. Yet, in every single sport right now, they pale in comparison to Texas, with exception of softball. Football's better
It's a fluke.
by a wide margin. Our basketball team, our men's basketball team, isn't that great. But I mean, shit, we beat Oklahoma 8 times in a row. So that's that. Our women's basketball team fucking blows them away by a country mile, probably 10,000 country miles. As our women's team is number 2 in the country, is primed to win a national championship under Vic Schaefer, who, by the way, congratulations to him, just got a 3-year extension. Good on Chris Del Conte for making sure that guy stays at fucking Texas and doesn't go anywhere else, because he's doing a wonderful job. I'd make the argument he's the best coach on Texas's campus right now, but that's another story for another day.
Ooh, yeah.
Baseball, it's closer in baseball than it is in basketball and football, but because I think OU could be a regional team this year, but Texas is still better. Fuck them. And then volleyball, fuck them. Every other sport, fuck them. We're better in golf. We're better in swimming and diving. We're better in tennis. We're better in pickleball. We're better in bird watching. We're better in everything. So fuck OU.
Oh man,
That's my parting shot.
Yep.
So with that being said, like at least A&M, they have the number 1 baseball team in the country. They were in the national championship last year. Even though they're like Texas 8-4, that's what most people call them in football. That's still better than what OU's been doing over the last couple of years.
True.
And they were like 1 win away against Texas from being in the SEC championship game, which OU wasn't close to. And they have a top 10 basketball team this year in the men's side of things. So at least A&M, like, even though we're going to make fun of them for not winning shit, that actually means anything. They're better than fucking OU right now. OU's in the dumpster right now.
Yeah. I think every time you watch OU, they owe you an apology.
Oh my god. We are getting off the rails here as it is approaching 11:30 Central Time.
I've been waiting to drop that one for like 10 minutes.
That was good. That was probably the best one we've had yet on Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. And I just laughed like a fucking squirrel. So, with all that being said, before we get ourselves canceled here at the end of the show, we are going to get out of here. I got to go to bed and get some sleep as I am fucking exhausted.
Yeah.
and cold for that matter, because it's
Yeah.
fucking freezing outside. So,
Yeah.
for Emmy Nixon and for myself, Michael Wein, this has been Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports, and boy, did we go deep in the heart of Longhorn Sports on
Oh,
this
yeah.
show tonight.
All up in it.
So, we hope to see you guys soon. We'll see you next week. Peace out.
Peace.
Gosh.